And so we're not going to spend a super long time on depreciation, and we do go into it deep in the 3-hour CE class. But just as a friendly reminder, there are different spaces in real estate investing that are the most beneficial. And depending on your own income situation, for me personally, depreciation has always been just as beneficial as the appreciation. And so, as a reminder, the residential depreciation table for the IRS is 27 and a half years. And so, in general, you usually take the sales price, and in this, in our time together before we have open mic and talk about all investing, then we are just going to stay with the same price of $300,000. And I do want to let you know that at the end, I got 3 houses that are $300,000 and less that are on the market right now. So just remember, this is possible. But they'll take you times that times 80%, and then that gives you the amount that you will be depreciating over 27 and a half years. And so when you look at that number, 8727, you just go, oh my gosh, what is that? Do I get that in a check? It really depends on what your tax bracket is, but I want us to look at it in a different way, okay? If y'all have known me for long, you've heard me say that every girl needs 3 rental properties, and boys, but this is the reason, okay? It's just to get started, but when you look at the fact of if you or you and a spouse make, let's just say $100,000 in a year for an easy example. So if you made $100,000, and that is, by the way, after you have taken away whatever it is that you write off, and that is what you're left with, okay, that would leave you with an approximate tax of $35,000. Okay, so it would leave you with $65,000. And remember, we're still on the 3 rental houses. This is the beautiful part of depreciation. So the depreciation would actually take off $26,181. And y'all, it doesn't matter. That doesn't even include the mortgage interest that you get to write off. It does not include any rental overage that you get. It does not include the appreciation of the house over time. This is its own special gift in a box with a pretty bow on it. And so while it's beautiful with the 3 houses, just please notice one more thing, that it also took the tax rate down, and this is just from the current tax rate. Of course, those could be changing soon. But when you're looking at the true return on investment, then we would have to add, based on this, $12,854. And just remember, this is if you had no rental overage. Where did that money come from? Where did the $12,854? It's because if you didn't have the 3 rental properties, you'd be paying $35,000 in tax. You do have the 3 rental properties, so you're only paying $22,146 in tax. Y'all, a lot of people just miss that. And if we're able to talk about that just with ease and confidence, you can get a lot more investors in the game, and y'all, they'll love you forever, and they'll send other people that want to do what they're doing when they start talking about the huge difference that it's made in their tax returns and what they're getting to keep. I'm going to move this to 10 rentals because that's what I'm doing right now. I also did it when I was 30 years old, just because this is, as soon as I found out about depreciation when I started investing in my 20s, that's what took it over the top. I mean, even when I was in medical sales, was just the difference that it made in the tax that I owed. And so we're just looking at this for a second, and then we'll move on. But just notice with 10 properties, and so y'all, say $100,000, you've written off everything that you can, and that's what you're left with for adjusted gross income, and then you would take the $35,000 off in tax. But y'all, you understand, right, that you actually got the $100,000, right? Like it's yours. So as independent contractors, we're very well aware of it because we have to write checks to the government. If you're W-2, then of course, it's at least a little more invisible. But the real difference is, look at the difference if you had 10 rental homes, because you would be writing off $87,273. That would mean that your taxable income is only $12,727. And so the bottom line is, when you look at the difference between the $35,000 that you would have had to pay in taxes and the $1,909 that you would be paying in taxes because you got to write this depreciation off. I mean, look at the difference. This is, y'all, we all need to be investing in real estate, okay? Because it's just, when you think about having $33,000 more cash, I mean, it's literal money in your hands. All of a sudden, when you think, oh, I don't know if I want to deal with tenants and all that stuff, I think we should circle back. Okay, we should circle back and think about how can we do this in a way that will be as little trouble as possible. And I know the easy button is just to say, oh, I'll hire a property management firm. And I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm just saying, look at the best value of how you spend your time. And if it's worth it to do that, then do it. But if you've got 10 houses, at least you could probably negotiate a better rate. And now we're going to add another slice of the benefits of investing in real property. And we're still assuming 0 monthly overage. And the reason that we're doing that, y'all, even though rental rates are so high right now, and it seems like it would be very hard not to make money, even if you put the minimal amount down to get a house. But I want to do that just so we can incorporate any repairs, if there's any time that, the tenant is moving out, the turnkey of getting a new one in. So I'm just leaving that at 0 just to give us space in there. But all I did for this first example is I still used the 3 rental properties for $300,000 each, your $100,000 income, and then I added in 4% appreciation averaged over a 5-year period. So this is for 5 years. Remember, we just went through the depreciation, and now we're adding appreciation. And I know it says averaged, and is it going to go up in value every year, 4%? No, it is not. But, I mean, my gosh, we just went up 20% on this price house, around 300 in a year and a half. So I do believe that 4% average appreciation for homes in this price range is accurate. And then we're going to use the second example we just looked at, which is the 10 rental properties in 10 years. Oh, it's $1.5 million. So Melanie, this is why I was talking about Grant and Mark, because this is ridiculous. Okay, we both have sons in their 20s, and to not jump on this type of opportunity over being inconvenienced for, maybe 60 hours a year, that is making over $1,000 an hour, which I still think is worth it. And so I just have one last slide before we go into the 3 houses that I've found this morning for 300 or less that are hot. And it's just reminding everyone that, y'all, we are real estate agents. And is it possible for us to actually purchase 3 homes with less than $20,000? Because, listen, you can tell I really do try to overcome any type of concern or objection that anyone can have about this, because I live my own life doing it and it worked, and I'm trying to share the good news. And so this is it. Okay, so if you don't have a house right now, I would suggest starting with an FHA loan. I'll tell you the way to do it for the least amount of money is to move 3 times. And I just want y'all to know, in my 20s, I moved 8 times in 1 year. So, I mean, it is doable if you want to jumpstart. But even if you don't want to move, it's still possible to jump in. And we actually go through that in a different class. We drill down deep. But just remember, if the house is $300,000 and you're putting 5% down, it'd be 3% if it was FHA and you were moving. But you're getting 3% commission back. And as a friendly reminder about the closing costs, you might say, oh wow, how do we get 0 closing costs? Well, newsflash, the buyer's market is back, which means investor market is back too. So we can just ask sellers for it now, but we can also talk to the lender and ask the lender what our rate would be if we had no closing costs, and could they tell us how much it would cost for them to use yield spread premium to raise the rate and have no closing costs. And at least you can evaluate your options. It may not be any big deal for you to pay closing costs. If we think the house would appraise, then we could also reach out to the appraiser or the seller and just pay them more to cover our closing costs. But there's a lot of ways around that. So just remember, we can always get to zero if we're trying to do 3 with $20,000 over the next few months. So y'all, before I kick it off and just have open mic, because I'd love to hear your stories and what has been up in investor world for the last 2.5 months. But this is what I look for. I've had a lot of folks reaching out. I do want to tell you what I say investor season is back, y'all. Investor season is like that. I mean, people are all over it right now. But what I put in FMLS is I keep it to the minimal. And the reason is because it really broadens my mind and perspective. Even if it's in cities that I would not be interested in going to, I just like to know what's happening with prices in investment houses these days. Because I will say, y'all, there is a price that each of us would see, even if it was in a city an hour and a half from here, that we might be interested. Just depending on the opportunity. So I would say less is more as far as your criteria. But the things that I do, and the reason that I like to use this is because these are easy rentals. So I say less than $350,000 for the price. I put 4+ bedrooms, 2+ full bathrooms. Now we have to put the state of Georgia, because FMLS, if we don't put that, you're going to get stuff in different states and it'll be harder to sift through. And then when I get back the results, I sort by price on the single line display, of course, from lowest to highest. And then I start scanning down and looking at the cities that are either near me or not so far away, as far as what I can just see with the sales price. So I'm just going to start with my winner chicken dinner today. This is my favorite one. Okay, so this one is $280,000. It is in Gainesville, and it is 2,296, so almost 2,300 square feet for the main house. And then it also has a garage apartment in the back. Both of them are already rented out. The tenants have been there for both over 18 years, and they don't want to move. But we could move them, but that would be a great way just to be able to grab something. But y'all, for $280,000, look what this says too. And because people ask, gosh, how do you find them? How do you feel comfortable? So that's what I did. I just wanted to find them, and I had 996 from that criteria to choose from. And I picked these 3 because I think they're hot. And this one was my favorite, so I started to kick it off with that. It also, another thing I do when I'm looking at these is I Google Earth to see what the houses look like across the street. I zoom in to see if I can see any utilities that are running across the property, because I don't want to drive to Gainesville this afternoon to buy this house if there's electric wires, around there. I also don't want to drive over there if it's across the street from a school or something commercial that's questionable, or if it's on a main street. There's a lot of reasons that I really don't want to get in the car, which you can see on Google Earth. Another thing to look at is the migration report from the government just on the state of Georgia and how many people are coming here. The population here is already happening. And when you can get a house for $300,000 or less that's extremely decent, and that those houses at that price, they have to be brought up in inflation. And if we're still at 8.5 or whatever we are right now, inflation, I'm not sure, since we're putting out this new bill and spending all this new money, how long y'all think that inflation's going to be over 4%, which is what I'm anticipating for appreciation for the houses annually in the return that I just showed you. But I would assume it'll be for at least a few more years. So very exciting times.